Hello and welcome to a new episode of YEV, which is part of the Chargeheads YouTube channel. And YEV, we talk about EV news, balanced views. And tonight we're going to be discussing KERBOCHARGE. And we've got Ben Whitaker, who is the original founder of KERBOCHARGE, to tell us a little bit about what they do. And we're going to get into the founder of KERBOCHARGE. Oh, hang on, sorry, we've got some feedback here. We're going to get into the founder. Hang on.
I'm wondering who that's coming from.
It's really nice to hear your own voice over and over. I think it's gone now, so we're good. So yeah, we've got Ben Whitaker talking to us about KERBOCHARGE, and we're going to delve deep in terms of the what the use cases are and what's the best places for it, where it might not be able to be used, which councils can use it, because some councils are more au fait with the product than others. And yeah, just a general summary and try and make some sense of home EV charging overnight prices, I thought, as a general topic. But Ben, welcome to YEV.
Thanks very much, Tim, and
welcome.
Happy Sunday evening to everyone on this bank holiday weekend. Yeah, I'm Ben Whitaker. I'm one of the co-founders of KERBOCHARGE. With Michael Golden, who's the main originator, who started the business out of his very own lived problem. He lives in a terraced house in London, you know, got an EV and was finding that charging it was a bit of a pain. He thought there's got to be a better way of doing this. And, you know, the thing that really brings it home, all of us who have got EVs and can home charge, we get a double whammy of the real delight of you leave your car outside overnight and it fills up. And you don't have a lot of range anxiety or concern because you're starting most journeys with an 80% tank or 100% tank. And then you only have to stop every now and then for a little top up to get yourself home if you do a super long, unusual journey. But almost all of your normal driving is just home charged overnight.
Yeah.
And not only is that super relaxing, but it's also 5 to 10 times cheaper than public chargers. And
absolutely,
even in London, where there's a reasonable density, you're having to find a charger, get it to activate using whatever app or other method is there, and then walk away from your car wherever you've left it, then come back and take it away and everything else. And so the whole home charging thing was really important for Michael. And we basically had to figure out, well, you don't own the street outside your house. You've got to figure out how we work with the councils who own and operate and take responsibility for the pavements to let us do something there, what the safety regulations are, what we have to do to get that not only to look good on day one, but to sit there for 15 years and still look good and not cause any trouble in what's a polite way of describing the have you had a triple fall culture? Make sure that we don't add to the statistics of people saying they've tripped over something in the paper.
This is it, Ben. And I think so many people have probably shared where there's not been a KERBOCHARGE or some type of Gulley product. And, you know, whether it's a extension lead or something coming off a tree branch, I've seen some really interesting ones. It's great to know that there are products out there now that are safe and legal. But how many? Because I know that you guys have been going for, is it 3 years now, something like that?
Yeah, it's getting towards that. We've got just over 30 councils we're working with now, putting the KERBOCHARGEs in around the country. So we've got it past the initial kind of prototype and trial stage that everyone saw us at when it was on Dragon's Den a year or so ago. And now it's actually rolling into business as usual at a number of councils. I think 9 or 10 councils now have just said, this is available to every citizen. You can apply for it just like you apply for a drop curb. So you just write to the council, say, I'd like one of these and whatever. But you can come through our KERBOCHARGE website and we'll stream you to the right set of questions to get your application started. But yeah, it's been a really interesting journey of, as you say, finding those councils who are brave enough initially to create a new process and to make sure that the legals and everything else are right on it. And I think we've been working really, really, hard, even though it's something very new and very scary. We've been working hard to make it very boring, because once it's put in, it's a relatively dull piece of infrastructure that just lets. And those who haven't seen a Kerbocharge, it's we cut a little groove in the surface of the pavement outside your house and put a little channel in there with a self-closing lid on the top, so you can then get your EV cable under that lid, and then it leaves the whole thing totally flush and flat with the pavement, so that nobody can trip over it, and charge your car nice and cheap, 7p a kilowatt or cheaper if you're on solar, and then take the cable out again when you're finished. And we can put that in about 1 hour of works on the street. So we just put some temporary barriers up, 1 hour of cutting it, put the thing in, put some sealant down the side, which can, cope with a bit of movement of the pavement, because weirdly pavements move. The asphalt in the summer melts and moves, tree roots move, and so we have to make sure it has a bit of give to it. But yeah, 1 hour fitting, and then you've got something which is going to be there for 20, 25 years and letting you do home charging, which is. Sorry, Tim, you're on mute.
Mute.
Apologies. Yeah, that hour fitting, that is really, really swift.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I was talking to my mother-in-law about the Kerbocharge, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, that would suit me." And the question that she had was, what about the block paving? I'm guessing that the fitting changes depending on what type of pathway it is. Even, I mean, how does that differentiate between how quick the fitting of the Gulley is?
The fitting time's roughly the same. We just we try and match it to a gap in the existing paving stones, and we're just about to bring out coloured channels. So in concrete grey, sandstone,
concrete grey,
just to match, some of the lighter paving, or the decorative stone that you get in, Durham and York, or the when you get new build housing areas, they use a lot of these kind of brick size pavers.
That's it.
Making sure that it blends into that. And you never get a perfect match on day one, but the moment you've got a couple of weeks of local dust on it, it blends in. And we love that we've made it so boring. We were out showing it to one of the big energy companies, because commercial fleet is a really big EV opportunity and challenge. 70% of commercial fleet gets taken home by the drivers. These British gas engineers, the Octopus, the City Fiber, optic fiber people, the delivery drivers. They take the vehicles home, and 70% of commercial drivers don't have a driveway.
No.
And so if you try and electrify a take-home fleet, you end up losing a lot of productive time if they're having to sit at public chargers. And I've been told it costs about 500 quid a month of lost productivity of a person in a van waiting for them to public charge. So they're wanting to pay for Kerbocharges to go outside employees' property. So we've taken one of these energy companies to have a look at one of our sites in a conservation area.
Where does Ben, just sorry to stop you there, where does that 70% figure come from? Just as in terms of specifying the data set there, is that
that's from a survey that was run by one of the fleet electrification companies who paid a research company to look for it. I'll go and find the source of that number, but that's a survey which was run specifically to figure out how much was there. And that number has been borne out with conversations with some of the really big fleet operators that we've had, who are trying to do real at scale electrification of their fleets, and they've said, yeah, that number is about right. That's what we're finding coming back from us, is our commercial drivers are disproportionately people who live without driveways, or if they have a driveway, they can't get a panel van in it. So it's a real issue.
It's funny because having speaking to a few commercial fleets, it does tend to be that some drivers are really receptive to having charging at home for their work vehicle. Some are less so. It all depends on the person, etc. It's like, oh, why should I have my commercial vehicle on my driveway to charge it? Should I be should I be charging the company a rent space? And I'm sure it's gonna work the same with the KERBOCHARGE. You know, there's always going to be pros and you know, resistance, and some people that are really positive about it. So, you know, we do get always think about the ones that, you know, a few challenges that are thrown my way when I recommend things like KERBOCHARGE. Is that, you know, oh, I'm not guaranteed that space outside of my house. Is there?
Yeah.
And I know that, having read the council blurb around it, is that obviously you're not allowed to put a cone in front of your KERBOCHARGE, which I'm sure some people probably do.
Yeah,
but,
sorry. It's the same with the. It's the same with the. If you claim for a charge point at home, if you get the plug-in, the home charging grant, whatever that's called at the moment, where they've extended it so you can get a charge point at home, but it doesn't guarantee you the space, which is you almost need like a network of them, don't you, to kind of pick up the gap.
Because I have noticed, because I've just had a new charger installed, and it does have the ability to share your charger now. So I've got the new Anderson EV one, and it does have the ability in the app to share your charger.
You've hit it exactly right, Kevin. Basically, once you've got a KERBOCHARGE, you can normally charge from any of the 3 spaces closest to your house.
Okay.
So you run your cable one up, one down, or straight outside. So for an average driver who charges once or twice a week, if you can get to one of those 3 spaces once or twice a week, then it'll probably work for you. If you can't, then normally that wouldn't work. But what we are doing later this year in areas with highly contested parking, where you never get right outside your own house, is we're doing 5 up and down the same street, all, just as Kevin had suggested, all turning on the sharing of their chargers.
Nice.
So you, like a community resource, all the people on that street are sharing with each other. It's such a contested area that they're not opening it up to randoms. They're just saying people from our street can all share our chargers. And it means you don't get outside your own house, but you'll be outside Jane's, and you plug into hers, and you're getting her domestic electricity price plus a few pence. So if they're getting shared more often, they're getting a bit of money for wear and tear. They're making a couple of quid every time somebody fills a whole battery, but that's still saving you 18 quid plus versus going to a lamppost and paying a public rate. So in some of those areas, as you get more people with EVs, your 5 KERBOCHARGEs is 15 spaces. That if you're in any one of those 15 spaces up and down the street, you're charging, which can be pretty effective.
That's the dream, isn't it? Long term, that's how I think that's how you fill the gap, isn't it? Is that once you've got once this becomes the default, once you've got places like, I mean, down the road from us here in Cardiff, there's rows and rows and rows of terrace houses. I mean, some of them have got garages, most of them don't. People are very dependent on the street. As soon as all of those houses, almost like you plug into wherever you charge, there'll be a charging point there, and it'll draw energy from that house, but it'll add it to your bill, 2 streets away or a few spaces away. I think that's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what they're looking at blockchain technology to do, is to do that shared payment type technology.
Yeah, well, the payments work now. We don't need mystical thinking and extra compute cycles dedicated to crypto. Burning more of our renewable electricity just to let us pay. We can pay now. This is old tech.
We've got right charge. We've got right charge, power as well. What other are there particular back office systems that you recommend to people who want to share their charging?
Well, you've got Tap Electric, you've got Manta Ray, you've got some of the EV manufacturers have built their own. Some of them you can use OCPP and open and sort of back office relayed open OCPP to make that work. We've got our own we're potentially going to be trying, but we're not that fussy. It's going to be whatever works really well and isn't too clunky and lets you say, right, I want it just for me on Wednesdays and Sundays, and I'll open it to people on my street the rest of the time. I'm adding family members for free, and one of the properties we're putting this in for, it's the person with a house on the corner who really has an EV first, and he's gone 50-50 with someone further up the street on the understanding they'll both use it at cost. So you can set different tariff rates for guests, etc., as well as saying people in the street and whatever else you want to do. So it's something that has the right level of control without being too defeatingly complicated. But this is something which we're going to see a bit more of over the coming year. And it's that way that I think for us to deliver enough infrastructure to really switch everybody to have a good option on EV is not a case of saying everything is fast chargers or everything is slow chargers or everything's private or everything's public. We need a bit of everything where it fits. And for a lot of the councils, they've often used all of the easy bits of space where they control car parks and you've got bits of street that you can take ownership over and put a dedicated charging bay in. But you want to really avoid dedicating parking, because that gets people very, very animated in an area that's hard to park in already. So you can't mark off a bay for EV only without there being pitchforks and burning tapers, being thrown at the council. So
have you got
these which don't require DNO connections, don't require reserved parking, and don't put bollards and street furniture in the way. It's the lowest impact infrastructure. And I think that's why the councils are seeing this as actually a lot more attractive than bollards.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, Alex, what were you going to say?
Yeah. How have you got around? Because I know there was an issue with sharing charges before, that if you're not a CPO, you can't resell electricity. So have they changed the legislation on that, or is there a way around it now? Because there used to be an issue where you couldn't charge people because it was that plug share, the thing where you had to effectively you rented someone your space because you couldn't sell them the electricity. Have they got around that now, or has the legislation changed so you can resell your home electricity without being a charge point operator?
I've not seen that specific issue being enforced against. What we have seen is
an own goal to do it, wouldn't it?
What's that?
It'd be an own goal to do it, I guess, wouldn't it? So
I think that's one of the things. There's a lot of new movement in what's going on in EV and infrastructure, where the legislation is having to catch up, and that's driving one of the things going on now with the. There's an update to the planning bill going through government right now, and so KERBOCHARGE and New Automotive, the REA and EVA England, we've all written into the cross-party committee that is analysing the changes and any modifications and amendments being made to the new planning bill, and trying to make sure that some of those bits of infrastructure and planning changes do get put in that help EV move faster. And these are the easy, cheap, low-hanging fruit for the government to make changes on. And so that's changes like, at the moment, it's permitted development to fit an EV charger to a house if you've got a driveway. But it requires a full planning permission application if you don't have a driveway, which is a bit of a pavement tax on everything. So we're trying to get that added as permitted development. At the moment, if you are a CPO, you're being granted quasi-utility company permission to issue your own permits on Street Manager and just get on and do your works. Whereas if you want to put a cross-pavement channel in, you again have to go for a full Section 50, which can cost you up to $3,000 per site at some councils. And so we're trying to get, all of the things that they're doing, which are nice, easy tweaks for some bits of infrastructure, like optic fibers, etc. It's like, include bits of this EV infrastructure in there, and that makes it easier. But I think one of the biggest ones that's coming in, and that's not just for KERBOCHARGE, but that's for blocks of flats and renters and everything else, is trying to create an expectation of permission, a right to charge. So if you are a long-term renter and you said, I, as a long-term renter, I'm willing to pay to put in a charger in my underground car park, in the private parking area, in the wherever, or my employer is wanting to pay for it, then there's only a limited set of circumstances in which a freeholder can say, no, I'm not interested. So we're trying to get both councils and private freeholders and property managers into a place where it's a lot more permissive, and it's a lot more default permissive to get the EV infrastructure in place. What we're talking about here is not lobbying government for budgets. We are lobbying for easy paperwork. And I think it was Ian Hislop and what was his name? I've got it here. Yeah, Andrew Hunter Murray on the Private Eye magazine article and podcast. And they would Andrew Hunter Murray lives on a terraced house in London and was shocked by how difficult it was to get a cross pavement channel, because he had to write to one bit of the council for trying to get the highways permission and a separate bit of the council to get the planning permission, and the amount of money and the amount of, a catch-22 where one council officer will take the money and say yes, another one will say no. And he was just climbing the wall saying, I'm trying to do the right thing in line with government policy, and I'm being blocked by something which is, it doesn't have to be complicated if we just get these little changes included into a property planning bill update that's going through anyway. So if you have any access to MPs and you can nudge them on the planning bill to support these changes to make the move to EV easier, this is enabling us to allow private individuals and employers to pay for EV home charging infrastructure. And it'd be great if you could back up what we're doing with EVA England and New Automotive and the REA.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, you mentioned, there's quite a few challenges in terms of paperwork. I mean, are there any councils or any particular areas where it's a lot simpler, where it's literally just a phone call or an order form and everything?
Oh, yeah. My favourite is probably Nottinghamshire.
Can you take me through that kind of customer journey and also the costs? And also, I'm not surprised it's Nottinghamshire, because I know how far ahead they tend to be from an electrification point of view. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to hear, Ben.
Yeah, well, Nottinghamshire, you go to the council website and you say, yeah, I want a cross pavement charging channel. And they say, right, I want your address. I want you to confirm you don't have double yellow lines or trees or anything in the way. If you can send us a photo, that'll help. And then a council officer looks at that and checks that there's nothing crazy in the way and says, yeah, I'll schedule that. And at the moment, the council are paying for the channels to go in. So in Nottinghamshire, it's free for now. So get involved. There's a number of councils during the trialing phase where they're 50% discounted. I strongly recommend getting involved in those. I think Stoke is just coming out with a free trial as well. They're doing 200 channels free. So get involved there. But basically, the quickest way is get on the KERBOCHARGE website, put in your postcode. It'll show you whether or not your council is live or not live. I've got a list of the councils who are working here, gradually working through them. If they're pay half, it'll be about 500 quid. If it's pay full, it'll be about £1,000. It sounds a lot. It's less than a drop curb. And with the money saved for an average driver, it pays back in about 9 months for an average domestic driver compared to public charging. And if you're a commercial driver, it'll pay back in about a month and a half. So it's quite rapid that you get a financial benefit, let alone the benefit of actually, easily charging outside your own home.
How does this fit in terms of, you mentioned about commercial fleets? There's obviously, there's benefit in kind exemptions for somebody to have a charging point put in at home by their employer. So there's no tax liability attached to that. Does the works for this come under the same? Is there, if you're an employer and you're wanting to provide this to your drivers, is there any kind of tax implication to think about with that, or is it or does that come under the same kind of group of exemptions as part of the charging equipment?
I'd see it very much as part of the charging equipment that you're getting put in. It is charging equipment, and it's often done very much as part of the same works. So we're working with a number of the leasing and the vehicle OEMs and the energy suppliers and the charger installers. So that if you have bought or financed a vehicle or been issued one, but through work, that is, here's your vehicle for a monthly price, including a charger fitting. It will also, they can throw in the KERBOCHARGE with it. So all of that gets wrapped into your kind of monthly cost of the car. So make all that really easy. And, the future we see is boring. The future is that people won't have to think about applying and researching and finding out about cross pavement channels. it'll just be wrapped into one of those things you just do as part of getting your first EV, either as part of a works vehicle or as part of a lease or as part of a Motability kind of accessibility vehicle. It will be wrapped up in something else, and it'll just be this extra little question that just says, are you able to park within the 3 spaces nearest to your house if you don't have a driveway? And it's like, yes, well, okay, let's put in a KERBOCHARGE for that, or whatever the supplier is, because there are other suppliers who are doing this. It's a healthy market of not just one.
We've got a couple of questions, Ben, from the viewers. And Dean's asked, do you get any negative reactions to some of the councils that you try and deal with?
We do have some councils. Some of them have said we're very, very busy putting public chargers in, so we don't have the officer time.
Right.
Others have looked at some of the very early cross-pavement channels, which were a gap with a kind of bristle strip. And they really didn't like that the gap with a bristle strip looked a bit like it was a surface, but you could wedge a walking stick or a high heel down there and snap it off and still have a litigation coming to the council for putting this thing in. And so having seen an early stage products and said they don't like that, they don't want to come and look at it again. And so we're trying to get them to understand that, okay, this is not a thing with a hole in the middle of it. It actually is high heel safe, and you can drive a brick lorry over it, sort of thing. Some of the original products were also steel or metal. And so they were ramrod straight. And anybody who's worked in pavements in the UK knows that they're anything but straight. They're kind of cambered. They sink in the middle, where a cowboy has fitted an optic fiber and not compacted it, so it sinks. And that kind of Frankenstein's pavement doesn't really suit a flat, straight thing. So the KERBOCHARGEs we've deliberately made for the council highways team to bend, so they can bend it to match the actual, you know, rough as a bear's rear quarters pavements that really exist. So we basically put a very intelligent boot on each end just to flatten it down to wherever it is, and it just sort of holds it in place while the sealant goes dry, and then it kind of just stays matched. And making it really, really dull is what we're trying to do to calm a lot of councils as well, who are worried about the eyesore nature of anything shiny that's going in. And that's why we try and make it dull and blend in. As I said earlier, when we were showing one of the channels to an energy company who wanted to get these for their engineer vans, we had a neighbor kind of walk by and say, "What are you doing?" And we said, "Well, it's for charging EVs." And she said, "Oh, that'd be good. I'm getting an EV." And she said, "Have you just put it in then?" And we said, "It's been here all year." And she walked past it daily for a year in a conservation area and never seen it because it didn't have 5 people stood around it pointing at it. And that's why they don't become a source of vandalism. They're not a shiny thing with blue LEDs on that are having, you know, bored teenagers swinging baseball bats at or trying to do parkour off. It's as boring as a water meter cover.
Yeah.
And water meter covers don't get vandalized.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So have you found that?
Go on, Kev.
Yeah, so with the councils, have you found much? Because obviously Wales has quite a high proportion of terraced houses. Have you found the reception in Wales with councils pretty good, or are they all too busy? Because I know some councils are still thinking that hydrogen is going to be the future for everything. So have you found Welsh councils being quite receptive, or?
Yeah, we found Transport for Wales at national level has been incredibly positive and supportive. And although they don't have the Levi funding, they have got their own capability funding in place. We've got several live trials in place with places like Blanagwent, Newport, Carmarthenshire, and we've got, I think, 4 others about to go live. And the lovely thing with Wales is we've been able to do a number of firsts, like the first thing on a 30-degree incline, making sure that our self-leveling material doesn't self-level straight down the hill.
Nice.
There's a lot of terraces which have no front garden or yard. And so we've been putting low profile, very slim chargers on the front of house, and then the cable straight down the wall and in and across, which everyone was very nervous about. And it was like, yeah, okay, but this is the trial. We're going to try this and see, you know, if anybody gets sued, if anybody's ears fall off. And it turned out to be a complete non-event. And it's just like, oh, that works then. So we're going to make sure people don't have a big chunky charger where the plug sticks in and comes out and then grabs children's elbows as they wheel past. It's got to be one that's, you know, either a tethered or one that has the cable come straight out the side or down, rather than one where it comes out like an elephant's trunk.
Mark has just put an interesting question in, which is, you know, do the councils ever need to maintain the pavements or any resurfacing? And just to add to that question, how long or how often does the Kerbocharge need servicing or does it need cleaning, what have you?
The Kerbocharges don't really need cleaning. I mean, if you have got them at one end right by a flower bed, if every time it rains a bit of soil might migrate in with water from the flower bed, you might want to rinse out, but it should flow down to the road like anything else in a gutter. You can, you know, brush them out if you need to, but generally because they have a lid that closes quite tight, you shouldn't get much in them.
Okay.
If there's a resurfacing, then the council can either resurface up to it and resurface after, or cut it out, do a mechanical resurfacing of the whole thing, and then reslice it and put it back in again. But it's very much like any other street furniture. If you're a utility company or a council and you're doing work on the street and there's a piece of street furniture in there, a manhole cover, a water meter cover, an optic fiber access point, if you put it back like you found it, that's great. And if you tear up somebody else's infrastructure, then that infrastructure provider will charge you to put it back again. So we work with OZEV and the DFT to get an addendum made to the SROH. That's the Reinstatement of Highways Act. Reinstatement of Highways Guide that goes to all of the utilities companies and highways repair companies. And it tells them all of the accepted ways to reinstate a manhole cover, putting in joins between different asphalt. And it now has a section on it on cable channels. And it says, hey, everybody, this is a cable channel. They're only 40 mil deep. So most of the time you can go underneath them. So we've had optic fiber companies trenching along and then they just pop underneath and carry on. Okay. But if you do need to take it out, slice it out, use these, do all your works, put it back. And these are the materials you have to use to put it back in again, and how close to true it has to be so that the highways inspector won't snag it and tell you to do it again because it looks like a mess. But this is something that will be exciting and unusual for the first 12 months and then gradually just become another thing which everybody understands, just like optic fibers, which were an absolute pain when they turned up. No highways team in the whole country wanted optic fiber trenches all over their footways and getting in the way of everything else. But at the same time, all the residents wanted broadband. And that's exactly what we've got here. We've got plenty of council highways teams who do not want new bits of infrastructure that they have to dance around and deal with and everything else. But they've got citizens who want to have EVs. And we can't just have, you know, a situation where rich people get cheap charging and everybody in low income housing has to pay 5 to 10 times as much. And we don't have enough space to do it all. So something's got to give. And we've got 30 councils moving forward already. We've got a whole bunch of others ready to follow in their footsteps because everyone loves being second. And this, I think over the coming year, I think several people at OZEV have said, this is the year of the cable channel, where it goes from a few little pilots to really an expectation. And
I would say that it's funny you should say that, the year of the cable channel. For me so far this year, from a commercial vehicle point of view, it's very much a shared charging hub kind of focus this year. And you could argue that Kerbocharge could be part of that, but from a domestic level. So yes, this exciting technology, exciting moves going on in the EV charging market and the EV market as a whole. You know, not to mention all the amazing and interesting vehicles that are going on at the moment. And I must say, thank you very much. I must say, I can't remember who it was that recommended it, but if anyone gets a chance, check out the Shanghai Motor Show video, which is on YouTube. It's about 3.5 hours long. I'm watching it in double time at the moment, but it's well worth the watch if you want to be up to speed with everything on there. But it's Shanghai Auto Show 2025 Inside China Auto, just to keep abreast with about 100 different Chinese brands that may or may not be arriving to our shores very soon. Going back to the questions, though, we've got Dean that has mentioned, or he's asked, who installs KERBOCHARGE? Is it a council groundworks team or a private contractor organised by KERBOCHARGE?
It's half and half. Wherever possible, the councils are in charge, and so especially where they're a bit nervous, they like to do it themselves. So they just buy the channels from us. We give them a bit of guidance on their first day of installs, and then they just run off from there. So Nottinghamshire, they do it with their own Nottinghamshire have a maintenance company that does it for them, and so we trained that company up, and they do all the installs now. So all we do is supply channels. Durham have an in-house team. Again, they do that. With Milton Keynes, they have a term maintenance contractor in the shape of Ringway. It's Ringway that does the installs. But some of the councils don't want to be involved. They've got too much to do in their own highways maintenance and potholes activities. And so they just say, KERBOCHARGE, we're going to issue a permit. You go get an approved and insured groundworks team to go and do it. So it's a split between done in-house by the highways own team or the highways maintenance company, or managed by us. We don't mind which, as long as it's available in more and more places. And so, yeah, either way.
No, fair enough.
Are you working with new build developers as well? So, because I mean, weirdly, I've seen a number of new builds where they have terraced housing and stuff. Are you working with people off the ground to say, well, you have to fit a charger now, so can we kind of build this into the design when you've just built a new terraced housing estate?
Exactly right, because at the moment when you're doing the higher density housing which parks on street outside, or even with allocated parking that's the other side of a footway, the current solution is to make the footway wider and then put a bollard on a stick with a charger on the top of it, which has an armored cable going back out to the house, which is a whole maintenance issue of itself, having private buried armored cable. And that, as we all know with bollards, you can't just have the one charging bollard on its own. It needs some defensive bollards around it to stop the delivery vans driving into it. And that's a lot of street furniture. So it's significantly cheaper for them to just put a KERBOCHARGE channel in so that people can whip the cable out to the vehicle when they need. So it's less than an hour to install when we're doing the whole lot in one go. And it's something which is now being seen as attractive by some of the councils. So the councils in their design guide to new builders are saying, put in these cable channels so that we don't have all of this easy to damage, ugly street furniture in the way. We'd rather you hand it over a project to us which has got KERBOCHARGEs in it. So start to build that in. So we're going to see a lot more properties with cable channels built in from the very early stages, and especially with new build areas, they don't have EVs straight away. They're getting them over time, especially when you move into a house with a charger. You're thinking, well, maybe I will get an EV. But it means that those who've moved in without one don't have a charger on a stick going obsolete and being reversed over long before they even get a car. So we see it as a much better low impact bit of infrastructure. So new house builders, big EV, big fleet, commercial fleet operators, as well as the general public are going to be moving to these.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned
that's good, because I've actually.
You go, mate.
That's good, because I've seen in Wales they were quite early to say that in new build homes had to have chargers, but they never actually specified what a charger was. So I've seen new build estates which have gone from the 3-pin socket on the wall as being defined as a charger to then the commando socket being defined as a charger, and now they've actually tightened it up so it specifies type 2 charger. But I mean, that's what you've got to, with some of the new builds, it's almost sometimes a race to the bottom, isn't it, where they'll put the cheapest possible thing that they can define as a charger in it. So
I think the main thing is, and the regulations and the recommendations we put in the licensing agreements for these is that you've got to have a pen fault protector. This is for electrical safety. So when you trail a cable out beyond the curtilage of your house, you're now going beyond inside your house. Not only do you have the same earth to everything, but often that earth is then bonded to every major bit of metalwork, like your pipes, if they are still metal. But when you come outside the house, you might encounter earths at a different voltage. And so a pen fault protector, which is built into all modern smart chargers, will spot if its earth voltage is different to the earth voltage that's coming back up the line from the car, and then disconnect all 3 conductors, including the earth. Whereas if you're just plugged into a normal domestic socket or an unprotected commando socket, you might actually end up quite badly injured by the earth cable, and the domestic circuit breaker won't help you. So if you are fitting a commando socket or a 3-pin for exterior charging, we're stipulating that if you are taking a cable into a KERBOCHARGE, i.e. beyond your house boundary, it's got to have a pen protector, either on the external socket or in the EV charger.
Because I've seen that. Especially when I
was going to say, it's a really good question by Mark. He's just popped in here. Where pavements are narrow, is there such thing as a right angle charging plug so it doesn't stick out of the vehicle? That's a really good comment, actually. If you think depending on which side, which way around the vehicle is, if the charger's on, the side of the pavement. I've not seen anything like that. I don't know if anybody else has.
No, we need something like that, because the many EVs stick the back of that cable almost beyond the wing mirror distance. But unlike a wing mirror that doesn't have a loop to catch things, the cables do have a loop. And I think it'd be great if we had low profile, low projection leads for cars which are now getting charged nearer other things. Even if it's in a car park, you just don't want things sticking out that far from the car. So I really hope we get normalized, homologated, low penetration or low extension plugs and cables to go into not only the car side but also the charger side.
I hate to think what would come out of China if I asked them for a low penetration plug, but there we go. In terms of the actual length of the leads, I've heard you talk about having, it doesn't have to be in front of the house, it could be either side as well. What's a typical length of the cable coming from the AC wall box do you guys recommend?
Well, the length of people's front gardens varies.
I bet, yeah.
And they may also have actually positioned the charger down the side of the house or in a shed or somewhere further away. So really the main stipulation we make is that you should be charging from one of the 3 spaces closest to your house and no further.
Yeah.
So if you have a 10-meter garden, you'll be adding 10 meters to that cable. But once you've got to the curbstone, you shouldn't be going too much further. And we generally don't do a KERBOCHARGE longer than 6 meters. And there's very, very wide pavements out there. One of the things that's really quite important with the KERBOCHARGE with the Flexi is when you open the lid to put the cable in or take a bit of cable out, it doesn't flip open the whole 6 meters of the pavement and clothesline the jogger going past you at night with their headphones in. It only peels open a kind of 30-centimeter section. So as you go along feeding the cable in or out, there's only a little lozenge that's about 20 mil open, and the rest of it's closed. Whereas if we'd done a metal one, when you open one end of that metal thing, the whole thing goes up like a carrier arrestor hook, and people will just go by. I was doing some filming on one of our sites in Southampton. I had a tripod and a camera, and I was doing it, and literally I just got about a foot away from the car feeding it in, and a girl in a burqa just goes straight past me in this little 1 foot gap, and I thought, oh my god. But thankfully the whole thing had already gone flat, and I was just thinking, people are not thinking about what is it this person is doing down there with a cable. Is that a problem? It's like the moment I can get past an obstruction, they're getting past it, getting on with what they want to do, and we've got to make it safe as soon as possible. So it's all this stuff about, can we make the charger come straight down from the car? How long the cable should be, where the cables have to go. These are all really important things that need relatively simple practical solutions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just thinking that I've seen your KERBOCHARGE multiple times over the years, fully charged live before, it hit the Dragon's Den, etc. I would really love, I've never demoed it. I've never, as they say in the motor trade, which is my, misspent youth, is bums on seats, help feel the drive, help sell cars. So I think I would love to actually try one out one day. Is there like somewhere that someone could experience it in their local area? Do the council have or is there a person in the area that's quite happy to let people give it a go? Because I'm sure people are a little bit nervous about, is it actually going to work for me? Is it going to be a bit of a kerfuffle to use, essentially?
Great question. Well, we come to some of the trade shows with a demo bit of pavement for people to try out. We are now making some of these demo units available to car dealers. So when you go and do a test drive of a vehicle, when they're saying, well, maybe you should get an EV, people say, oh, I can't charge, I don't have a driver. You go, well, you can get one of these. And then you can try it there at the vehicle center.
Which car dealers are they, out of interest? I'm interested to know which dealer groups that is.
I'll have to go find a list. I've had requests from more, so we're going to have to start manufacturing larger volumes of these to go out. We're just about to bring out an accessibility tool, which allows people that cannot bend over, or like me, don't want to bend over, to get the cable in and out without having to do any bending down. So again, at the demo centers, there will be one of these because, as you know, the largest EV fleet in the UK is Motability.
Yes.
There are plenty of people who have various reasons they don't want to bend over. Maybe even they're on a student-encrusted street in London and it's full of rubbish. But yeah, not bending down is a big thing. So that will be available to test as well at some of these centres. But do come and see us at some of the trade shows. It's a great way to have a go now. And gradually, in some areas, you'll just find them in the street, and people love to talk about them. I mean, the first one we installed in Nottinghamshire, wonderful woman there. She runs on her WhatsApp neighbourhood group a sharing system for all of her neighbours to charge at her KERBOCHARGE, and she'll just demonstrate it to anyone. She just is a real advocate and promoter. It's wonderful. I think it's Nottinghamshire who actually put little signs on the lamppost nearby whenever they install one, so that people can find out what on earth it is, and then they get a cluster of new applications nearby because it's such a new product category. Nobody knows it exists. You know, outside of our bubble of people who look at EV news on LinkedIn and watch these things, nobody really knows about it. So we've got to kind of gradually get it into. I think it's just got on the Octopus website. It's gone on the OMI website. So it's in your kind of flow there, which is going to start to help people who didn't even think it was there to find out about it. But it's something that gradually will become more known about, possibly thanks to some of the big EV fleets starting to fit them. We'll get it in a lot more areas because it won't take teaching 10,000 drivers that it exists. It's a case of teaching 100 fleet owners that it exists, and then it starts.
Mark has asked, is there a YouTube video of someone using it? I'd urge someone to go to the KERBOCHARGE website because there's a few demonstration videos on there, kerbocharge.com. Malcolm has said that he's seen the KERBOCHARGE at Everything Electric, and whoever was demonstrating it let him stamp on it, dig his heel into it, and said it was very robust. So that's good news, as long as Malcolm's of average or more weight.
Well, they've been deliberately designed with 25 ton per tire rating on it, and nobody can get 25 ton on a tire legally in Europe. But the most difficult thing is high heels, and so it's been designed so that a rugby team in high heels is not going to bother it.
That's okay. That's an edge case and a half, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why speaking Swansea. Friday night,
depending on where you live, I suppose. Yeah.
I was going to mention a different town, but as soon as you guys have put your hands up, that's fine. Okay, in terms of
secret squirrel stuff I'm talking about.
Of course. So, Ben, what's going to make KERBOCHARGE thrive? What are the challenges in terms of rolling out more swiftly, more cost effectively?
I'd say really it's councils being reluctant to even issue a few permits. And so we're not the thing that slows it down is if every council feels it has to trial it and spin up a load of officer time and get their own legal team to look through how they're going to do it. If they can just start copying the homework of a neighboring council and just saying, based on the fact it's everywhere else. So some of them like Manchester City are being a bit more sort of putting on their putting on their sort of grown-up pants and going, you know, there's enough trials out there. We're just going to crack on with it. I'm going to grab the paperwork from them and just go for it. Others have gone, we're really, really busy, so I'll give you 10 permits, put them in. Our street inspectors will have a look, and if they're all fine, then crack on. And they don't boil the ocean reinventing the wheel. They just say, let's move on. And so the more councils feel comforted by the experiences of others before them, that they can then move on, the better. And the more we have councils imagining a load of problems, but not asking the questions, and then just shutting the thing down and refusing. And in some cases, the most reluctant councils have been the green-led councils. Really embarrassing. These are some councils with clean air zones, lots of terrace houses, loads of residents writing into their councillors saying, can we have a cable channel? And they're refusing point blank to talk to anyone about it. And we don't even know why it's being refused. And that's the frustration when there's a key individual or two who have formed a concern either over legal or maintenance or something, which they think cannot be solved, which all the other councils seem to be solving. And we're just gradually getting through to enough people. And I think we had one of the councils come back and say, our council has now received too many public requests to ignore this. We're now having to move forward. So a lot of the time it is pester power. It is when the citizens who the councillors serve, when enough citizens have said they want it, they have to look into it. And so it doesn't come down to opinions of council officers who believe that the future is hydrogen or petrol or whatever it is. If enough residents have asked for it, they do have to have a look at it. And that helps to move it forward. But I think the main thing is if the government, especially if the Properties Act, the bill going through, is improved slightly, that's going to make it go quicker. And the more the big brands, the big OEMs, the big energy companies start to make it obvious to people who don't have a driveway that we can give you an EV tariff and an EV charger and an EV lease, including those things, and just build Kerbocharge and cross pavement channels into that experience without the resident having to do the research, that's when it's really going to flow. It should just be part of the background knowledge of the world that this exists and is easy, and they shouldn't have to buy it separately.
Yeah. No, if I had a terraced house and I already had a charger, what would be the cost to me at the moment if I lived, let's just use Nottingham as an example. What would be the cost for me to fit a standard Kerbocharge?
Nottinghamshire, free. Still.
Oh, so you already said that. Sorry. Somewhere where there's a council that are open to fitting it, but don't do it for free, for example.
No subsidy. It'll be about 980 quid. And so that will pay for itself in about 9 months. But we are just about to bring out a 79 quid up front and then pay monthly.
Nice.
And you can then pay monthly either just for a Kerbocharge or a Kerbocharge and a charger.
I know you've obviously done the homework already. You beat me to it, but 9 months, what's that based on? How many miles a year?
That's based on the average mileage a year.
Like 12,000.
I think shy of
7.5, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about seven, about seven and a half, 7, 8, something like that.
It's average now, 7.5. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, a lot of people don't drive that far,
and it's gone back up a little bit more as well. It dropped right down. It was below 7 a few years ago, and it's gone back up again a little bit, but not much.
So pay up front,
I'd saved it easily.
Yeah, pay up front. Average driver pays back in 9 months, but we're bringing out now a pay just 79 quid and then pay monthly. If you get the charger and channel, that's something like 30 odd quid a month. I think it's about 31 quid, which you save back after the first charge. So if you're doing more than one charge per month, you're in the money. And most people charge once or twice a week. So that's just to make, even if you don't want to do a lot of modeling, if you know you're going to be charging more than, if you're doing twice a month or more, you're better off having a Kerbocharge and charger thrown in. And with that, we'll keep replacing the charger whenever it fails. So that's, as long as you're paying, you have the charger looked after and sort of maintained.
Wow.
So we're just looking at, what makes it more accessible. Some people will pay up front and it's employer and they're just like, have the money that pays back in a month and a half, don't care. And there'll be others who are like, I'm in rented property. I don't know. just get me on the monthly, because at least I know I'm saving money after the first month.
There we go. Dean's just put 2p a mile to run my EV and about 15p to run a nice vehicle. 8,000 miles and you'll pay back your £1,000 turbocharged investment. There we go.
Yeah, numbers roughly work. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, has anyone got any questions for Ben? I'm sure I'd be happy to answer them. And has anyone got not got a driveway who is considering maybe a turbocharged? Have they got a terraced property? It'd be really interesting to hear your comments on that. So chuck them in at the end. But yeah, Kevin, Alex, have you got any other questions for Ben at all?
I was going to say more on observation than anything. I mean, I'm in the process of marketing our house here at the moment, and it's been interesting how the EV charger thing is. It's a very, aside from any investment in terms of fuel, it's a desirable aspect for your house. Is that if you're moving to an area where it's all terraced houses and you're all set up with a turbocharge, aside from any fuel savings and so on that you might get, it's adding some. Yeah, it's a desirable thing to have on your house. And I hadn't realised how big. I mean, I guess it is, but I mean, I've got a 12-year-old Chargemaster unit on the back of the house. It's been there, like I say, for over a decade, and is well worn and all the rest of it. My ships is people will just come and rip it out, but every time we've had any discussions about selling the house, it always goes, "Oh, you've got an EV charger on your driveway," and it's a big thing. It seems to be something that people want.
Which is weird because I just ripped out my 10-year-old Polo one for a new Anderson one. So,
well, I think the main thing is, people now have home EV charging as a search criteria, even when they don't have an EV yet, because they know their next vehicle will be an EV. And so for a lot of people, they're thinking, oh, can I get a terrace still? I want to be in this area of town. I want to be walkable to everything, but I want a home charge. And so it does add a lot of value because your property is instantly, there's home EV charging. There's 7p a minute. There's vehicle to grid that you can do there. There's all the good stuff that comes from having an EV tied to your house, and that's a big extra advantage.
Yeah, no, as Mark said,
guessing as well, there isn't a limit.
Go on, mate.
Yeah, and I'm guessing there isn't a limit because you're using Type 2 chargers. There's no limitation, so you could, in theory, if the house had 3-phase, say a new build, you could have a 3-phase turbocharger.
Well, as long as you've got a pen fault protector, you can put any cable in it. So we fitted some of these to council parking areas where they've got a burger van, which has now been able to get rid of all the gas and fumes and everything else and run all electric. And they use the turbocharge just to get to that. We've got a press release soon to go out about, again, various food and entertainment and sort of vehicles and locations, again, be able to use turbochargers to get power to places that you can't have a big green box where they want to have the vehicles. And so as long as you've got the electrical safety with it, there's lots of different things you can run through them. But it's definitely an asset. I mean, if you've got a camper van that you need to trickle charge, this will do it for you.
Yeah. It's really insightful, all the detail, Ben, and you're a fountain of knowledge for it, of course. What shows are you guys going to be out in the near future? Just if anybody wants to come and see you guys or ask any questions in person or do a demo.
Oh, Lord. We've got so many shows. I think you'll have to have a look at our LinkedIn for KERBOCHARGE or our X, and that'll say where we're going. We're going to be at some of the house builders. We're going to be at some of the commercial fleet, and we're going to be at a few of the EV and the electrification shows. We can't be at them all as a relatively small company in the space, but we will be around and come and play with a KERBOCHARGE in person.
There we go. Oh, Dean's just mentioned something which is quite interesting. That it would be great if KERBOCHARGE put up a customer experience video on YouTube from each council customer. I think the more, it's all about sharing it. And
the more videos and things, the better. We've got quite a lot of people put their opinions on Trustpilot, which is an independent review site that we can't edit. So we've got links through to Trustpilot to read what real people say. Our gallery page shows a bunch of photos of different people in each of the council areas. We don't always get video footage with residents. They don't always want to be splattered all over the video themselves. But we'll try and get more on there. But yeah, from the website, you should be able to get the gallery page to see the pictures and see Trustpilot to see what people have penned about us.
That's super. Ben, thank you very, very much for sharing everything. Out of interest, what car are you driving currently? I'm guessing it's electric, but I could be completely out there.
It is. I've got a used Tesla Model 3 long range because for turbocharge I have to go a long way, and I love it. I love the supercharger network. I love the fact that the charger planning is just done for me by the black box, and it just says go here. And I love the fact that there's no cards, there's no apps. I just plug it in and it does it. And it means I can do a really long day, and I just do, literally plug it in while I go to the toilet, have a cup of coffee, and it's already finished. And it's charging at 800 miles an hour. And it means I haven't finished doing my piss in a pastry by the time it's finished charging the thing to 80+%. I just love
piss in a pastry. Not to be combined. You've teamed me up really well, Ben, because actually my referral for Tesla Link is on my YouTube channel. Kev and Alex, I'm sure at some point we'll share some referral on there. But from a selfish point of view, if anyone is considering buying a Tesla and want to save some money, then check out the referral code. Ben enjoys his Tesla, and I enjoy both mine. Kevin and Alex, sorry, guys. What we normally do at this stage, Ben, is we talk about, just at the end, we talk about what we're doing this week. For myself, I'm going to be enjoying family time tomorrow, and then I'm going to be nothing's particularly exciting other than last week. It was very exciting because it was the CV show at the NEC, and there were some really interesting new vans that hit in the market. Things like the Kia PV5, the Horizon, the Flexis. The Horizon is from Gulley. It's that particular brand. The Flexis is actually a combined project from Volvo Truck, Renault, and CMA, I think a shipping company. Very interesting bit of kit. That's 800 volt and 240 kilowatt charging speed. Very interesting. There was the Isuzu, which Kevin mentioned last week, which I wouldn't have known about, which has got the towing capacity of 3.5 tons. So that was an interesting thing to hit the market. I'm sure the National Highways and the Environment Agency fleet are relishing at the opportunity of that vehicle. If only there was a company to simulate how well it would do in their normal operations. Oh, there is. It's called Dynamon, and come and see me and hit me up on LinkedIn if you want to do any simulations of any electric vehicle in your normal operations. Kevin and Alex, what are you guys up to this week?
Well, as it happens, within about this time tomorrow, I'll probably be pulling on to Kevin's estate. We're doing Singleton Classic Car Show tomorrow, so we're getting the fueled member of the driveway, the outnumbered one, out for a run tomorrow. But Secret Squirrel stuff for the rest of the week, so I can't really say too much about that. But you're used to me saying that. But,
yeah, so absolutely.
For me, I've been testing the BMW i4, which is a very lovely thing. But also testing the Corsa E and the Aura 03 GT. So Corsa and Aura 03, I'm kind of doing a side by side with them.
Very interesting. Yeah,
but this is why I'm greedy. This is why I'm greedy and have 2 chargers, because I've got too many electric cars to charge.
Well, I think I could probably do your advice there, Kevin, because I think I need another charger. Funnily enough, someone just dropped off my daughter's little pink car that was in the background of Chargeheads for so long. It's no longer at Ralph's garage because the TVR is no longer at Ralph's garage. It's just out here. And there's going to be a video this Wednesday to talk all about it. So if anyone wants the electric Tesla-powered TVR update, it's coming this Wednesday. Ben, what are you up to this week? Have you got much going on?
I think more activity around the accessibility tool. I'm actually going to be spending a bit of time looking into the slate that's coming out of the USA. I love the direction of all the bolt-on, bolt-off,
very cool.
Low-price truck van. I love that its size is smaller and its weight is smaller, but the fact that more of it is user serviceable, I really want to see more of that happening at the low end of the market, because the new powertrains and batteries are going to outlast the interior and the entertainment console. And why are we going to be throwing away the whole car because it's too tatty in the inside? It should be more like a Nokia phone from the 90s and noughties. We should, once the outside or especially the interior gets a bit tatty and the entertainment system's rubbish, is like flip that out, put a new one in that you got from a third-party producer, and then the car is like new again. Because if the motors are good for 500,000 miles plus and the batteries are good for 500,000 miles, we shouldn't be chucking them away at 110,000 like an ICE. And I really think the future for the 80% of us like me that only buy secondhand cars, the future looks great on EV, because these are vehicles that don't need service. They have sealed parts that it's not like you have to check whether someone's ragged the gearbox and not changed the oil on it. Literally, it's going to give you an electronic report that says, yes, my battery pack is still working. It's like, fine, I'll buy it. And then the MOT man tells you whether or not you need new suspension bushings. And that's kind of it. You know, these cars are going to be used very reasonably and heavily to the 200, 300, 400,000 mile range, not by an occasional long distance taxi driver, but by everyone.
Yeah.
So I think the changeable interiors is what we should see more of. And I think that the direction of Slate is exactly right for that. The EV sledge, you know, the kind of skateboard bottom, that should be your Nokia phone base. And you just change on and off what's on the top of it according to what you're doing with it. And I love that. And I'm going to be looking more into that and other cars which are adapting that kind of long life skateboard kind of design pattern.
It's funny you should say that. I was talking to the good lady, wife, and family, actually, because we've got the family around today. And what kind of dawned on me is people talk about a forever home. As far as I'm concerned, I want my 2 Teslas to be forever cars, because I just want to if the battery goes, just replace the battery. If this goes, because I genuinely want to see how far I can push these vehicles. People say run them into the ground. Not that I'd ever put a lithium battery into the ground, of course, because that's, it's not the way you do it. You cycle them, of course. But I know that there are companies already that would swap your Tesla Model 3 battery out. But it'd be interesting to see how, if the new battery technology, whether it's sodium, whether it's solid state, China or somebody is able to give you a pack to replace on something like a Tesla Model 3. And that would, for me, would be the obvious car to do it, because the opportunity for companies to make money, because there's so many of them out there.
It's interesting. I've had a couple of conversations recently, most recently with BMW. BMW's new Neue Klasse stuff. I feel like I keep mentioning this because it's the most recent. It's the most in mind. But because they know where all the where bits go wrong and need 10. They said it's not that bits fail, but that they know which bits, if they do fail, are catastrophically expensive or might be complicated, and so it's designed to be taken apart easily and have bits replaced. And I think now that we're on to kind of 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th generations of powertrains, people know where the problems might lie and the bits that could cause a car to be an otherwise serviceable car to be retired early. So we're just going to see that age going on and on and on, improving, aren't we?
Yeah, and you look at i3 BMW again. There's aftermarket people now installing much bigger batteries in i3s, because the i3 was a bit different with its carbon fiber and its aluminium. The actual platform itself lasts for ages, and now people are upgrading batteries to give it more range than it ever had when it was out with BMW.
Well, funny you should say that, Kevin, because you've teed me up again, or someone has at least, because we have actually got someone coming onto the podcast soon who has done just that. He's upgraded a battery on a BMW i3, and he does quite a few different battery swaps, and he's going to be on the podcast in the next week or so. So keep your ears open and your eyes open for that. But yeah, I just want to say, Ben, thank you so much for giving up your time to jump on the podcast with us this evening. And Alex, Kevin, thanks once again for jumping on. And no doubt we will see each other at a show sometime soon, Ben. And yeah, if anyone has that opportunity of, or has that charging need of needing a KERBOCHARGE, jump onto the website kerbocharge.com, and there's plenty of detail and videos on there. But that's it from us tonight. So thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for commenting, and don't forget to share it. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. Thanks so much, Tim, Kevin, and Alex. That's been fantastic.
Good chaps. Thanks everyone. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.